So I think we are live on Facebook, guys. So how's it going?
Good, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. Technical problems out of the way. We're just waiting to see if it's actually working now. Let's see, is it working? Excellent, we are live. 3 people have finally done it.
Fantastic.
So what's everyone been up to today?
Being stuck at home.
Jane?
Sorry?
What have you been doing today?
Yeah, trying to manage my daughter in lockdown and yeah, a bit of work, as I say.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, if you've just joined us live on Facebook, I'm joined with Nico, our specialist visceral osteopath. So he'll tell you a little bit about what that means to you later. And we're also joined by Jane Ahern, our fabulous nutritionist consultant, who works in London with us. So, so what we're going to be talking about tonight is one of the common things that might start occurring if you've been sedentary, stressed, and not eating so well, are problems with your digestive system. So, Jane, what kind of problems might people be getting in lockdown, and why is it so relevant to them?
Well, now that, as I say, it's a very stressful time, people are at home, working from home, maybe, you know, going into the kitchen and reaching for those tasty snacks might be on the increase. So, and also exercise might be decreasing. So these 3 things can all lead to people suffering from constipation, which is another stressful thing to deal with in this current climate, and we don't want. So I think taking care of ourselves and making sure that we don't add to our burdens is really important. So making sure you get all the essential nutrients you need, and exercise and lowering your stress levels is all key.
Yeah, excellent. So you give us top 3 tips, aren't you, at the end of the session tonight? So if you guys are watching at home, if you want to hold on till the end, and if you can keep it in, then we're going to give you some top 3 things that are going to help you get your pipe work cleaned out by the end of the show. So Nico, how do you deal with people with constipation as an osteopath? Because osteopaths typically work on bones and joints, don't they? Backs and stuff, right?
Yeah. How long do we have? I think I can talk about for a month. Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people in clinic with like constipation, for example?
It's very common. Elderly people is very common. People who take medication, and constipation is a side effect of medication, so it's very common. Some other people who have a underactive thyroid, for example, can cause constipation. I see also a lot of people who travel, and traveling, especially flying, seems to affect you know, how our bowel works. And there are plenty of other reasons, you know, like Jane was saying, lack of exercises, you know, lack of activity, etc. So it's really common. In osteopathy, you know, there is a branch of osteopathy called the visceral osteopathy, which deals with the viscera of the body. That it basically is our organs, our nerves, our blood vessels, our venous vessels, our lymphatics, so all of the viscera. And you know, considering that constipation affect mainly our large intestine, our colon, we can actually work directly on it, as well as a lot of other techniques which go and affect the nerve supply that goes to the intestine, the blood supply that goes to the intestine. So it can be actually quite complex.
Absolutely.
Jane, we've actually had a comment by someone that's been making their own sauerkraut, and she's been reading about fermented foods and gut health. So what's your take on that with regards to IBS and probiotics in particular?
Yeah, in terms of IBS, probiotics have demonstrated time again to be very effective. IBS is one of those tricky things. It can go one way or the other. You can either suffer from constipation, or sudden urges to go to the bathroom as well. So it's not sort of one size fits all. And I think Nico was also saying there, you know, it's a very complicated and individualized symptoms. But I'm all for probiotics, definitely. In terms of constipation, they can work, but everyone's an individual, and sometimes you might need maybe extra, so not just probiotics but prebiotics as well. So things like garlic, things like chicory root coffee that have inulin in them, also things like psyllium husks can help to kind of move things along. So not just your probiotics but also your prebiotics. But again, it's a very individual thing. Some people find probiotics work immediately and they're fine. If they then include the prebiotics with the probiotics, they're suddenly going from being constipated to having to run to the bathroom far too often. So it's finding that delicate balance and what works for you. And that's how I always try to treat people, on an individual basis, and what's causing the problem and how do we fix it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. So you mentioned a couple of things there. So prebiotics, not many people have heard about that, but sauerkraut and fermented products fall into that category, don't they?
They would, but more in the probiotics as well. So right. the bacteria in that are the healthy bacteria that are found in that would be more the probiotics. The prebiotics, as I say, are the kind of almost the precursor, but they're prebiotics. Most people probably have them in their diet, well, hopefully anyway. As I say, garlic, bananas, fruits, and vegetables. If you want something that's got a bit more punch or a higher prebiotic, then I would say something like a chicory root coffee, I would say inulin powders, things like that.
Yeah, great. Tell you what would be really helpful is, could you give me a list of prebiotics that you'd recommend to people to put in the description afterwards? Because I think people would probably find that quite useful.
I will. I've got one already made that I give out, so let me just write it down before I forget.
Excellent. Nico, do you come across, I know you're an osteopath, but dealing with visceral osteopathy, you must give people some dietary advice to help them along as well. So
definitely.
Do you come across dietary changes a lot?
Yeah. What I tend to focus on is increased fiber. So things like chia seeds, I find that to be quite good. They are rich in protein and they swell up, so they do create some sort of balance between soluble and insoluble fiber. I also quite like flax seeds. That seems to be quite nice, and then the prunes. I love prunes. I think they are great. So on top of a lot of water, people might be dehydrated. That might be another cause of constipation. Plenty of fruit and vegetables, and definitely low on bad foods. Things like processed foods, that can all create the background for the constipation from coming.
Yeah. I guess with the onset of the lockdown period, people were quite keen to rush out and buy foods that they could store for a long time because people were quite uncertain about what the future held for them. So do you think that's led to some of the issues that we're seeing with cases of constipation and like back pain, for example? Because that's not just their back that's hurting, it could be the bowels putting pressure on their back as well, right?
Definitely. Constipation, the main symptom of constipation is lower back pain. This is just because all of the visceral organs, they are attached through fascia, ligaments, and myofascial connection to our abdominal wall, so basically to our to our back. So if our organs, they can't move and glide and slide, this is going to cause stiffness, it's going to cause lower back pain, and it's also going to cause referred pain. Yeah, so something we call it visceral somatic pain.
Yeah, I think as well.
When you say visceral somatic pain, what do you mean by that? Because some people at home might not understand that.
Sure. So that's basically a pain that is referred from the visceral organs to our body, to our soma. So visceral coming from our visceral to referring into our body, to our soma. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. So do you come across when people when you find out that people have got constipation, Jane, what's brought them in to come and see you often? Because it won't be the constipation a lot of the time, I imagine. It might be that they're probably complaining about other things. Or do they come into you with constipation?
Some people, it's one of their major issues. It depends. As I say, some people might be coming for weight loss, but also suffer from constipation. I do also deal with a lot of athletes, and sometimes what I find that during their sort of day-to-day when they aren't exercising, they suffer from constipation, yet they will go out and do a bout of endurance exercise, and depending on the exercise can then need to immediately run to the loo and sort of have a sudden urge to go to the bathroom during exercise. And that is purely because of a lack of blood to the gut, and your body just wants to empty out. And so if you've been constipated for a long time and trying to eat fiber, like high fiber foods we were talking about before, and then however you go for a run, that can then trigger things, and it all goes wrong, basically the wrong way.
What happens?
So basically, when we're so backing up, so as I talked about earlier, stress. So we have our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So when we're in our fight or flight, which many people have heard about, so you're running, it can be cycling too, although cycling's, I'll come back to that in a moment. But running will send you into fight or flight. So we only have a certain amount of blood in our body. When you're running, the blood is going to your limbs to keep your muscles going and exercising, and also to cool your body down as well through convection, bring blood to the surface. So it comes away from the gut. And then for your digestive tract is not able to digest properly the food that's in it. And what can happen then is it says, we need to get rid of this. It can be nausea, or it can be, some people call it runner's trot, so diarrhea. So you've been constipated all this time, and then you're eating a lot of fiber. Then we go into the exercise, into fight or flight, and our body doesn't know what to do with itself, so it just voids the bowel. And that's not a pleasant thing to be out.
I can imagine it must be a bit
in the woods.
uncomfortable if you're in the middle of a race.
Don't feel bad if it happens, people. It happens,
yeah. So, Nico, the bowel situation is quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because you need sympathetic and parasympathetic to allow the bowel to function properly, don't you? So it's a fine balance between both parts of the nervous system. You treat the nervous system, don't you, when you're dealing with people with constipation?
Definitely. I've noticed in these years of practice that many people we don't have a lot of our parasympathetic activated. We are basically in a stressful society. We are running to go to work, to go back home, to deal with the kids. And there is not that much, life balance. So I mainly work with the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve being the main nerve that goes from our head all the way to our gut is actually one of the most important nerves for that. And then also in our sacral area, we do have some other parasympathetic nerves that they do go into the lower gut. However, I do tend to work also a little bit onto the something called the splanchnic nerve. So especially where there is, just below our diaphragm, we have a very big celiac ganglion. So there is quite a lot of nerves getting into the area there. And as I work on the stomach, that maybe I'll show you just where, just below here, as I work on something called the pyloric sphincter, just to try and open a little bit that the sphincter where the gastric juices they are, again, to aid digestion and to aid a movement, a peristaltic movement that then can cause a reflex along the line of the gut. Then we have to work a lot on the nervous system. Movement in the gut, in my opinion, is purely under our nerves, because they are, even the muscles there, they are involuntary muscles. They are not skeletal muscles.
It's very interesting. Lots of technical words there, Nico.
Yeah, sorry, do I need to clarify?
No, it's fine. So basically, there's loads of you've got your brain up here, and it sends two types of nerves down into the rest of your body. So one of them increases things, and the other one reduces things. So what Nico was saying was that there's a fine balance between that increase and reduction, because you don't want things too slow, but you also don't want things too fast. So your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for diverting the blood away from your digestive system into your muscles. So if you're very stressed, or you're very in a fight or flight state, as Jane was referring to earlier, your blood's going to be directed over to your muscles, and it's going to be ready to run away from things or stand and fight things. So that's not very good if you need more blood in your digestive system, because you need that blood to be able to help you help your gut to function properly, basically. So your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system work together to stop the blood going from your muscles and divert it into your digestive system to allow it to work, and also to help your smooth muscle in the digestive tract function properly. So you have all these very complex nerves which go all over the place. Some of them around your bottom, some of them are in your stomach. And Nico spends a lot of his time working on them through the outside of the body to help manipulate them. So you see quite a lot of people, don't you, Nico, with digestive problems?
Yeah, one of my interests is actually in digestive disorders. So I work a lot with people complaining of IBS, or some people with celiac, gastric reflux come along quite often as well, and constipation also.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And Jane, do you see any people, because Nico sees a lot of people with digestive symptoms that probably he works with you, I imagine, or could work with a nutritionist, but do you see people that come in with what they think is a digestive problem, and they actually have something else going on, or it's kind of multifactorial? Like, I guess stress is a big thing for you that you see a lot of, right?
Yeah, that is huge. And as you said before, I try to simplify it by saying stress is your fight or flight, not stress is rest and digest. So the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I try and drill that home: rest, digest. People nowadays, I mean, you're not necessarily running away when you're in fight or flight mode. And this is a vicious cycle as well, because our brains understand that we might be worried about getting coronavirus or paying our mortgage or X, Y, and Z, but physically your body just thinks, I'm frightened and I might need to move very quickly if a lion's going to come through the door. But what also happens is you want sugar or glucose in order to provide energy for that moment you run away from whatever this fear is. So your liver actually secretes excess more glucose, so the glycogen stored there gets released. If that's not utilized, again, it can be stored as adipose tissue, which is fat, and it can also lead to insulin resistance. So even people with diabetes can suffer from constipation because of insulin resistance, again, which causes nerve damage, and that's all over the body. And of course, we have, as Nico was saying, nerves and nerve cells that release signals to tell the body to, now it's time to kind of get rid of what's in our colon. So yeah, stress is one of the biggest things that people think it's that they just need to eat more fiber, but actually it's sometimes related more to maybe psychological aspects.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. So in terms of like the advice you might give someone with that kind of situation, if you think it's more stress related, what tips might you give them to help them with their digestive system if it was stress related?
Mindful eating, really, sensible eating. So I mean, anyone knows that, you know, eating more fiber, making sure you've got plenty of water, you're hydrated, pure foods, fruits, vegetables. But it's sometimes how you eat, not just what you eat. If you're eating in a sort of hyper state or in a constant state of adrenal release, then is it necessarily going to work? I think if people have been constipated for a considerable amount of time and it's really bothering them, I might look for maybe initially natural laxatives like supplements to take for maybe a 2-week period, and then lower it down and then try and incorporate things. But that isn't just going to resolve the problem. You have to then try and eat, as I say, in a relaxed state, making sure you're getting all your essential fiber and nutrients that will actually aid your digestive system. And if there is endurance exercise thrown in the mix of that, then we need to prioritize and manipulate that as well, because then you have to actually be careful with your fiber intake. So as I say, it can be quite more complicated than people think when they come in, but it's easily rectified.
Yeah, very interesting. Guys, if you're listening at home, and I can see you on the little monitor here, but if you are listening at home and you'd like some information, or you've got a particular burning question about digestive health, or you've got back pain and you want to know a little bit more about that, just reach out, just ask the question on Facebook and we'll be able to answer that. And if it's too personal, then obviously don't share it with the whole world. You might want to just message us afterwards, and we're more than happy to spend some time talking to you afterwards, or I can put you in touch with Nico or Jane, and they can help answer any of those burning questions you might have. But hopefully this is useful. I can see tons of people online watching it, so there's a few people interacting, which is fantastic to see. Nico, do you have any words of wisdom for people suffering with back pain when they're not really sure where it's coming from? Because I know, like, I've been like doing online consultations since 9 o'clock this morning. I have moved. I've got up. I've moved around. Been outside. Played with the kids for a bit. We had a great session with Jane and a client in Hollywood in LA as well earlier on. So that was quite exciting. But what advice would you give to people in terms of mobility for their stomach? So not necessarily for their back, just for their stomach.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what Jane was saying. You know, it can actually be very complicated. And if I should give just one advice, or that maybe it could fit everybody, is actually breathing exercises. I believe that, you know, engaging the diaphragm and you know, making sure that you are breathing through the belly, that is actually going to give almost a massage to your organs, and that can very well help with the movement of the content, of the abdominal content. So I think breathing exercises works very well on a multifactorial basis. You know, before Jane was talking about stress, anxiety, etc. You know, that's for sure. It's such a complicated thing. And people who sit, you know, you have to breathe. Yeah, people breathe around 18 times per minute every second or every minute of their life. So if you have to do it, then do it, you know, in a particular way. So I think that I would say definitely this. And another thing that usually comes out quite often is just a very slight adjustment, which is when you are sitting down on the toilet, just to raise a little bit more the knees. So you can put like a footstool and bring the knees a little bit higher than your hips. That allows the muscles and the colon to open up a little bit easier, and that might help also with constipation.
That's interesting, because one of the things that people do when they've got stomach pain is actually bring their knees to their chest, isn't it? It feels much more comfortable for them in that position. So I guess that's probably why they're doing it, right?
Yeah, it could very well be. Our instinct, you know, is there. Our body is there. The body knows, you know, the body knows.
Yeah, excellent. Good. So Nico, you've actually got some, we've actually started some live tutorial sessions, haven't we, with people with like muscular and digestive type problems that you're running on. What night are those? When are those?
So I'm doing it from Monday to Saturday. Is usually at 4 o'clock. Only the Wednesday is at 5 o'clock. Right.
Fantastic. Good. And how do people get in touch with you if they want to find out more information about that?
It's very easy. You just go on the Perfect Balance Clinic website, and there are online services, and this is going to be under online classes. It's completely free. So every day we are going to talk about different topics. So everybody is totally welcome to come and, just it's going to be like a live Zoom, just like the one that we are doing now. And it's fairly chilled. So people can just come in, ask whatever question they have, and I'll try to do my best to help them in a, in a private manner, of course.
It's not broadcast all over Facebook, is it?
No, it's not. It's not broadcast. So we need to keep things confidential.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Good. And so, Jane, you're actually doing a lot of online consultations at the moment, aren't you? Or will be?
Yeah, so it's fairly straightforward, as I say, as a nutritionist, to do a Zoom call like this. People can give me as much information as they want beforehand, and we can go through that then. So yeah, I'm available for online consultations. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Now, I promised at the beginning that we'd be leaving you with 3 bits of advice. Abby would like to be put in touch with Nico for your talk, if that's okay, Nico.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so if you contact Abby afterwards, and she'll be able to tell you about what she wants help with. We'll gladly help you out, Abby. So we said we'd leave people with 3 top tips about managing constipation. And what would you say your top tips are, Nico?
In general, you mean?
Just in life, my friends. What are your top tips in life?
Philosophical stuff now.
Just with constipation and back pain.
Joke apart. I would say, definitely have a good diet, which Jane is an expert in it. Second thing is do a little bit more movement. I mentioned the breathing exercise, but there is plenty that can be done at home. But the breathing exercises is very important for people who are at bed rest, for people who can't move. Yeah, so this is one of the things that they can do. So this is why I wanted to mention it, kind of for everybody. And and the third would be really just trying to work a little bit on your stress, on your mindfulness, on your meditation, etc. So interpersonal relationship now that we are stuck at home is very important. So though I would say these are the 3 main areas to work on.
Yeah, good. Jane, what would you say your top 3 tips are?
So number 1 would probably be mindful eating, rest and digest.
Jane, can I ask you a question? Mindful eating. Mm-hmm. I hear that word so much now. What exactly is mindful eating? Do you sit and think about the food, or what's going on there?
Yeah.
You think about it?
I mean, mindful eating is just sort of being in the moment when you're eating. I'm not saying you have to be like, oh, carrot, I love you. I mean, not that far. But
I thought I'd just clear that up just in case that's what you did mean.
I'm not going to make, no, you don't have to do that.
I didn't want to pass judgment at all there, Jane.
Talk to the carrot if you want, but, sit, relax, be present. It's time this is my breakfast. I'm not thinking about, okay, I need to eat and then I have to do this with the kids and then I have to talk to your family, keep the conversation easy, nothing stressful, try not to argue, just we're going to eat and relax and be together and be in this moment. And then when we have to move on to continue with our day, we do that in a relaxed way. But take your time, not just to eat, but to digest. So that would be 1. That's all incorporated in mindful eating. Eat and have time to digest your food. Hydrate, absolutely. Plenty of water, herbal teas, things like that. Coffee and caffeinated drinks are fine, but try and keep them before 12 o'clock. And then again, balanced, healthy diet. Plenty of fiber, and all of your nutrients, fruit and veg, things like that. And can I throw a 4th one in?
Oh, go on. That's it to you.
But yeah, exercise. So decent exercise, moderate intensity. If you are going into high intensity, just watch the amount of fiber you have right beforehand.
Yeah, good. Very good advice. Very good advice. Listen, it's been great talking to you guys tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic. I think it's such an interesting discussion to talk about non-musculoskeletal causes of people's problems, because we actually see probably in the clinic, we see many more non-musculoskeletal problems than we actually do musculoskeletal, because when people come in with pain, it's not just about their aching muscles and things. It's often about the food that they're putting inside their bodies that's causing the issue. Or it could be the way that they're thinking about things or not thinking about things that's leading to a lot of the stress and the other elements that cause people's problems and pain as well as the way they move. So there's that trifactorial way of thinking about things. But it's been great talking to you, and thank you for fulfilling my dream about I'm on my mission to break Zoom. So I'm going to try and get as many people on Zoom as possible. I think the limit's 10,000. So I've got a bit of a way to go, but I'm one step closer today. So thank you very much for helping me.
You're welcome, Stephen.
You're welcome. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
It's good. We'll do it again. Do it again next week.
Definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Next week, Nico?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good stuff. If you want us to come on live next week, those guys are on Facebook. Just hit the like button if you've really enjoyed it. And if we get 10 likes, then we'll come on next week. If we get 11, we might get someone else on next week, and we'll see if we get closer to my dream of breaking Zoom. Let's see. Excellent. Listen, bye-bye for me for tonight. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.